Good evening. Tonight is Tuesday, July 29th, 2014. Welcome to the Southbridge School Committee meeting. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask if there's any public input. Is there anybody from the public who would like to address the school committee this evening? Seeing none, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. May I have a roll call?
Mrs. Congdon?
Present.
Mr. Olivo?
Present.
Dr. Page?
Present.
Mrs. Donovan?
Present.
Mrs. Quinney?
Present.
Mr. Abrahamson?
Present.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Present.
All present?
Thank you. Approval of minutes. The minutes of the July 1st reorganizational meeting have been distributed to all members. Are there any corrections to the July 1st reorganizational meeting minutes? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Mr. Abrahamson makes a motion.
Second.
Mrs. Congdon seconds the motion. In discussion? All in favor? Show of hands. Thank you. It's unanimous. The minutes of the July 1st regular school committee meeting minutes have been distributed. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Mr. Abrahamson makes the motion.
Second.
Mrs. Congdon seconds the motion. May I have a show of hands to accept the minutes? Thank you. Under chairperson's announcements, several weeks have passed since we met, so I just want to update the public a little bit from the school committee's perspective as to what's been happening. The superintendent will provide district updates in a few minutes, but the school committee has been working as well, even though you haven't seen us since July 1st. At the July 1st meeting, subcommittees were formed, and some subcommittees have met several times, and others are working to meet. We will be getting subcommittee reports later on in the agenda. There is an awful lot of work to do. Some new laws went into effect July 1st that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has just released clarification on. That's going to require a great deal of policy work, and I'll be talking about that a little later on as well. The MASC Transition Workshop and School Committee Retreat has been scheduled for Saturday, September 6th. The location and time is to be determined, but we will certainly let you know probably the next meeting once those arrangements have been finalized with MASC. At that workshop, the purpose of the workshop, rather, will be to transition new members to the committee, to discuss the superintendent evaluation process, to establish goals for this committee, to talk about the direction that we hope that the school district heads in for the coming school year. Those kind of big picture things that we don't often get a chance to talk about, but are very important that we do, and it's important that we do it early on. I think we realized that when we had a couple of workshops later in the year last year that we certainly would have benefited from sooner rather than later, so we're happy that this will happen at the very beginning of the school year. A reminder that, believe it or not, school begins in about 4 weeks, so students should continue to work on their summer reading and writing assignments, their summer math packets and calendars, and as always, you can consult the district website for grade-specific information, as assignments do vary. And finally, I just wanted to say that I've been advised the Channel 11, the Cable Access Education channel, is temporarily offline. It's blacked out, but should be online again soon, possibly even as early as tomorrow. It's being upgraded and modernized, and Mr. Montigny has informed me that this should be very beneficial to the community. It will be one of the most modern systems once it's up and running. So we appreciate that. Under reports, agenda item 7, there are no scheduled reports this evening. So we'll move on to school committee reports. And I'll ask Mrs. Donovan if there's a curriculum subcommittee report. Mrs. Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is no report at this time. However, I've been in contact with our subcommittee members as well as our new Director of Teaching and Learning, Ms. Cheryl Stanton. So we will be getting together to finalize a date that should take place sometime next month. So at that, perhaps at 2 meetings from now, we'll have a report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. With regard to policy subcommittee, there's a meeting tomorrow night at 6:30 in room M100 at Cole Avenue. The agenda includes a review of the background checks policy. Those laws have changed. The wellness policy, policies related to food service, policies related to the expulsion of students and new student discipline law, the use of school facilities, and preschool tuition. So we have a very busy agenda tomorrow night. Hopefully we can get to all of that. And as far as negotiations, Mrs. Quinney, do you have anything to report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The negotiation subcommittee continues to meet with the para union, SEA Unit C, and we have a tentative meeting planned for August 12th.
Thank you. Next would be the Family and Community Engagement Subcommittee. Mrs. Congdon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 3 meetings were held. The first meeting was July 7th. Members present were myself, Mr. Abrahamson, Mrs. Donovan. Absent was Mr. Levo. Also present was Town Councilor Gus Steves. We welcomed new members and reviewed last year's accomplishments. It was recommended by Mr. Abrahamson that attendance is kept for all meetings to see which members are present for subcommittee meetings. Goals were discussed for 2014-15. Goals included having a member of the DLT attend FACE subcommittee meetings to answer questions and concerns. The committee discussed Title I funding and which schools were considered Title I. The committee spoke about taking advantage of the PB&J studios at the middle school, high school. Other goals were doing different ideas of community outreach, inviting different businesses into the schools, bringing back alumni to speak to the students, having a summer field day for alumni, having a community movie night, working with the police department to speak about bicycle safety and pedestrian safety, at open house, inviting community members to attend, having the library set up a table at open house to have library cards for the students, stopping the negativity about our schools in the town, having a welcome back cookout, have motivational speakers for the teachers, weekly school updates, ask us the superintendent questions throughout in the Southbridge News, monthly parent involvement calendars, highlighting October, which was the month of the young adolescent, and November, which is parent involvement month and family literacy month, having parent lunches, having job opportunities posted at the middle school, high school. A goal was created for the FACE subcommittee, which states that the committee will work to ensure the district schools provide an open and inviting environment for parents and families to be involved in their children's education, at school, at home, and in the community. Meeting dates were discussed for next year. Members had the opportunity to discuss their goals for the year. Our next meeting was held on July 16th. Members in attendance were myself, Mr. Abrahamson, Mr. Olivo, and alternate Mrs. Donovan. Dates and times of meetings for the remainder of the year were set. These dates include Monday, August 11th at 6:30. All other dates were held on Mondays as well. September 8th, October 6th, November 3rd, December 8th, January 12th, February 9th, March 9th, April 13th, May 11th, and June 8th. Discussion at that meeting included our vision for the subcommittee for the year, and it was agreed on that we would articulate our expectations of communication with the administration. Our top priority would be reviewing our website and the information provided. Our third meeting was held on July 23rd. Members present were myself and Mr. Abrahamson. We met with Superintendent Gardner. Excused were Mr. Olivo and Mrs. Donovan. We articulated the goal of this year's FACE subcommittee and asked that a member of the DLT be present at each subcommittee meeting to answer questions related to agenda items. Mr. Abrahamson questioned the Title I funding and which schools were Title I. We talked about the Student Advisory Board at the middle school, high school, and the monthly meetings that we will schedule with the students to be in compliance with Mass General Law and the election of the Student Advisory Board member and our Student Advisory Board and a student representative to the school committee. We discussed sharing minutes, once approved with members of the Town Council and vice versa. Mr. Abrahamson discussed his concerns regarding the district website and questions regarding the website. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 11th at 6:30 in room N100 at 25 Cole Ave. The agenda will include discussion on the district website, and it will be posted soon. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Congdon. Report of our SPED liaison, Mrs. Quinney, do you have anything to report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we had a meeting last Thursday in which they discussed their structure. They're going to be reviewing their bylaws, setting up a new structure that's more conducive to more parents being involved, planning for next year, including planning for presentations, and discussions regarding inclusion and fundraising moving forward. The next meeting for the SPED Pack will be August 21st at 6 o'clock in room M100. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have no presentation scheduled this evening, and the report of the finance director is not with us this evening, so we'll move on to agenda item number 11, the report of the superintendent. Ms. Gardner.
Thank you. Good evening. It's been quite a busy summer so far. We're getting ready for the fall, and we're excited about the fall. All of our new principals are settling in, our assistant principals are settling in and getting ready for children to come. The majority of our teaching positions have been filled. I think we had a couple of late resignations that we are filling, and they will be filled by the time school begins. We're working on bus routes. You should have that soon. And I was going to be able to say that all of our administration positions are filled, but on Friday, Ms. Karen Sheridan, Finance Director, submitted her resignation. She has an opportunity to accept a position much closer to her home. And so we will move forward with posting that position and looking at filling that position as soon as possible. We have an administrative retreat scheduled for August 11th through 14th. Retreat is probably a little misleading. We will actually be at Cole Avenue, and we will be preparing for the new year, looking at teacher evaluation and having a uniform way of running schools. And so we're excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 12 is school committee actions. A vote to change the last regularly scheduled meeting for the 2014-2015 school year to June 23rd, 2015. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Donovan makes the motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Donovan, did you want to?
Well, I know that I think I was the one that made the motion the last time to make this the last day, or the last scheduled meeting of our school year. However, after that meeting, or actually during that meeting, we found out from the town clerk that that is actually the town election that is that night. So therefore, what was that date? It was the 30th. So now what we're looking to do is to change this to reflect a week earlier, so that we do not conflict with the town election. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? So the question is on the adoption of the motion to change the last regularly scheduled meeting for the 2014-2015 school year to June 23rd, 2015. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Olivo? Yes. Dr. Page?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mr. Abrahamson?
Yes?
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. The date of the last meeting of the regularly scheduled school year has been changed from June 30th, 2015 to June 23rd, 2015. Agenda item 12B is a vote to rescind the previous vote from July 1st, 2014, which was to accept the donation from Savers Bank to be deposited into the West Street Schools Student Activities Account to then be allocated to the West Street School Playground Committee. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Donovan makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Olivo. Mrs. Donovan, you made the motion. Would you like to speak to it?
This was something that came up after we voted on last time. Savers Bank was most generous to give the playground committee $500 towards their playground. However, the way the check was written, it went to West Street School account activities, and therefore, because it went to a school, we had to accept it. However, it should not have done that, because it's not actually West Street School that is creating or building the playground. It was the West Street School Playground Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Southbridge Elementary PTA. Therefore, to properly reflect that the donation should have gone to the Southbridge Elementary PTA so that it could then go to the West Street School Playground, we need to remove ourselves from that process and rescind that vote. We are most grateful that Savers Bank was willing to help us clear up this process. So the check has been voided and a new one created so that everything can be done clearly and correctly. So therefore, just to keep everything clean, we are voting tonight to rescind that vote, and then the process can continue. And as Ms. Congdon, I'm sure will announce later on, this Saturday, August 2nd, is the community playground bill day. So we want to make sure that everything is clear and ready to go. So therefore, a vote tonight would make just clear everything and everybody would be all set. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this agenda item? Seeing none, the question is on the vote to rescind the previous vote from July 1st, 2014 to accept the donation from Savers Bank to be deposited into the West Street School Activities account to then be allocated to the West Street School Playground Committee. May I have a roll call, please?
Dr. Page?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mr. Abrahamson?
Yes?
Mrs. Congdon?
Abstain?
Mr. Olivo?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 abstention.
Thank you. The motion carries. The previous vote to accept the $500 donation from Savers Bank has been rescinded. Agenda item 12C is a vote to add a .5 literacy, .5 ELL IRS district-wide position. Is there a motion?
So moved?
Mrs. Congdon makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Mrs. Quinney seconds the motion. Mrs. Congdon, as the maker of the motion, would you like to speak to it first?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that I'm in support of this position with the hopes that the person appointed is qualified and committed to increase literacy and improve the learning of our ELL population. There's a huge need in our district in both ELL and literacy, and I want to give that population of students in our district a chance to succeed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this agenda item?
Madam Chair, I was just wondering if you or Ms. Gardner can just kind of briefly describe the purpose of this position, how it will be funded, and not for my benefit, but also for the benefit of the public, so that they do understand that this position has already been posted, and we just want to clarify why it's been posted, when it was posted, and how this will be funded.
I'll defer to you.
Okay, thank you. This was posted as an anticipatory position. We were hoping to fill it. As you know, for the past few years, our ELL subgroup has not done nearly as well as our regular ed subgroup. And part of that has been just that we have not given them the support that they have really needed. We have a 12.7% subgroup, and we had a full-time ELL director, from what I understand, prior to my coming, and that did not seem to help. So Superintendent Nimberco eliminated that position, and this past year we added a district-wide department chair for ELL. But with this person still had a pretty heavy teaching load, and that did not prove fruitful for us. We didn't lose ground this year, but we didn't make the gains that we hope that we can make. So by making this a district-wide position as .5 ELL and .5 literacy, we're looking for a person who can come in who can help identify the students who need the ELL interventions, that can help decide what those interventions will be, also increasing the literacy in math and reading that will help us across the district. So this is going to be a much more versatile person than someone who also has classroom responsibilities. They will help teachers plan, they may do some modeling, but they will be available to talk to parents and to really help in each of our schools. This is also another way that we are saving money. We're not adding an additional administrative position. We feel like by putting another classroom teacher although it's a little different role, by adding this, we're really going to leverage this. It's not a district position. I mean, it's a district position. It's not a district administrative position. They will be on a teacher's salary scale, but we are looking for someone highly qualified with a master's degree who has a minimum of 5 years teaching in ELL and a literacy program. So someone who's coming with some great skills. When we took a look at this position, we're going to be able to fund it through and I just went blank on the SPED, the 240 grant from SPED, Title I, and also Title II. So we're going to be able to leverage from funds from several different accounts, several different grant-funded positions. And as we move forward, and we believe this will be successful, we'll probably look to move it in next year to a more general fund position. But as we look to add it, just to make sure that we give our students every ounce of help that we can in the coming year, this was our best way to leverage the funds to do it.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarification, Superintendent Gardner.
Is there any other discussion? Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor?
I have
Dr.
several sort of questions about this, some of which have been answered. But I guess it's just a matter of clarification. If you add a position like this on the books and you do find the grant funding for it, what happens if when the grant goes away? Now, do we have this position that is it a permanent position in the district that now needs to be considered in the budget going forward?
Well, I mean, you're kind of asking me to prophesy, so I'll do the best I can with it. As I said, we're hoping that we will leverage a lot of good results from it, which in that case, next summer when we come back and we take a look at MCAS data and we take a look at our own school-based data, we look at some district-determined measures, I believe that we will find that even if there's not grant funding, that it's going to be a position that it's worthwhile for us to look for the money in the general fund. Title I is money that I've never known schools not to have, and we're a Title I district. As well, the 240 SPED grant, because so many of our ELL students, whether deservedly so or not, and just not ours, but research shows that ELL students often get dumped into SPED when people don't know what else to do with them. And we don't want to do that. We want students to be where they need to be. So at least for the next few years, I can see that we can use Title I and we can use the 240 grant to provide this position. But I think with the subgroup of 12.7 and with the success that we have not had, I think that is something that we owe our children.
Absolutely.
May I ask
Yes.
another question? So this comes under the qualifications. You said a master's degree in education and a willingness to obtain training as an instructional or data coach, and then 5 years teaching and/or administrative experience at the elementary level. And so I have some concerns with that in terms of the qualifications aren't really for somebody that you're looking for. The qualifications that are listed here on paper look like, this is a district-wide position that you would expect somebody to help with high school, middle school, so forth, all the way through, but you're really looking for elementary education experience as the type of person. And the other part is willingness to obtain training as an instructional or data coach. I think if we're in the position that we're in, it would make sense to me. You want somebody who already has that experience in hand as a coach to be able to really help the teachers and have training already to be able to do these kinds of things.
Absolutely. And I think the reason for that is many of the ELL licensures are K through 12. So while I believe that as we move forward, we have to really focus on the elementary students coming up, so that as they move forward, they have the skills that they need. Because I think that's where we're losing them. I don't think that we're serving them well in elementary, and as they move up, they sort of have this hindrance for them that they haven't had the proper instruction. So it is a district-wide position. We will be looking at all of them, but we really want to provide a lot of support to those elementary students. I think the reason that we have about being willing to accept the training is because in the past year, ELL in Massachusetts has had a huge overhaul, and we've moved from what was once called category training to retail and sheltered English immersion. So we're kind of on the bubble of even what Massachusetts is doing. So in the next year, there's going to be a lot of ELL training. Teachers are going to have to take a sheltered English course. So I think we all have to be willing to take that training, but it's not it's not like if you're a calculus teacher and you're coming in, you know, we wouldn't train a calculus teacher. You got to have it when you get here. But ELL right now is kind of a moving target that even the Commonwealth has set for us.
Okay. I have, you know, just a bunch of specific sort of questions. It's probably not worth time going through this in terms of the sort of details that I would like to have answered, but maybe perhaps we can deal with that at a later date. So I guess in summary, you're basically looking for somebody that's going to be an assistant to the current ELL department head.
No, this is going to take the place of that, and we're going to be able to take the teacher that we pulled from, I believe, 0.5 of her teaching duties and put her back into her full-time teaching position.
Okay, so this is going to be in the classroom position.
This is not a classroom position. This is a district-wide instructional resource specialist. So she's on he will be on the teacher contract, but it will be a district-wide position. So what they will do is they will assess students who are coming into the district. They will work with the teachers who are already our ELL teachers. They will provide professional development. They will disseminate data for them. They will look at goals that we're trying to set. And we will do some district-determined measures, some benchmark testings, and we will sort of check ourselves during the year as we go. So this person will have the time dedicated to doing that.
Okay, so I guess the question, we don't have anybody dedicated to that. I was under the impression.
Currently, we do not.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, well, that makes a little more sense.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this side, Mrs. Donovan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just for a little clarification for Dr. Page, I know you're on curriculum subcommittee. This is something that I was going to provide to you at that time. A good maybe 85 to 90% of our time in curriculum this past school year was focusing on ELL and the need for better assessment, monitoring, testing. We had people in place in the past, and you know, we found out through digging in that a lot of the stuff that we thought those people were hired to do, they never did. And as a result, our test scores continuously seemed to drop in that subgroup. We were very fortunate to have a teacher last year. She taught, I believe she was at the middle school, 6th and 7th grade. She was a teacher of ELL there. However, half of her time was dedicated to being our ELL coordinator, but because she had all these other teaching responsibilities, she could only really touch the surface. She did come to various subcommittee meetings that we had. She did visit other school districts to gain information of what their ELL program looked like, what their initiatives were. She came back with procedures and policy manuals that other districts have relative to the ELL program that she shared with us. And we spent a lot of time looking through that and monitoring and seeing what we had. And we found that we have a great need for somebody who needs to focus their time and attention strictly on ELL. Now, I know you've mentioned a little bit of the literacy intervention, and to me, it all kind of ties in together. One thing that we discovered with ELL is that if you are enrolled in our ELL program, you should not make a career of being in our ELL program. And that's what we're running into when we have, we have 2 teachers at the high school level right now that are servicing 120 students. And a lot of these students, started in that ELL program when they first entered our district, not necessarily as kindergartners, but whatever, we have a lot of transient people. So in any event, once you're in our ELL program, the idea is to assess who belongs in there and then give them the tools that they need, perhaps a 2 or 3 year service time, and then they should be ready to fully be implemented into the classroom. So again, with the goal of not making a career of it, we want to, as soon as we identify who those kids are, assess them, test them, give them what they need, and ideally remove them from the program so that they can carry on as regular ed students. Ms. Gardner's absolutely right when she said that a lot of our special ed students, a lot of our ELL students, because of the language barrier and people don't know what to do with them, they automatically plop them in that ELL program. And they don't necessarily belong in there either. So as a result of all of our work in curriculum, we really came to the superintendent, it was Mr. Nermico at the time, to say that this is a dire need in our district. We need somebody that's going to be versed enough in the testing and in the monitoring and in the assessment that can give their full attention to this subgroup, that can help the teachers who have these students to really get these kids on the right track and in the right direction so that ultimately their test scores can go up. So I fully am support of this. I'm excited about this. As chair of curriculum last year and again this year, this was like my number one priority, that this is what we needed. Granted, it's, half literacy, half ELL, but they are combined together, that we definitely need somebody that is well-versed and can really dedicate their time. This is one piece. However, it's one piece, but it's a major piece of what's keeping us back, and we really need to make this one of our main priorities to move our entire school district one step forward. So I'm fully in support of this, and when we do, to hone in on our subcommittee date for curriculum, this will be on the agenda, and I have a bunch of information to give to you relative to what we did last year, my year in review report, just so that you can have a little bit more background and familiarize yourself with it. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any more discussion on this side? Mrs. Quinney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the superintendent. Will this person will part of their responsibility be WIDA testing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And just to speak more to kind of what everybody else has said, I think we have a need for this position, and before where it was split with an ELL teacher, taking her out of the classroom in order to supervise this it was benefiting the district in that aspect, but those students in that ELL classroom were not getting the benefit of having a consistent teacher on a regular basis because she had these WIDA testings that she was doing and being pulled out and doing all that. So I think this position will benefit the kids that are in the ELL program to have their teacher fully present and have that time on learning with someone that knows them and knows where they're at. And I know that in the past, getting WIDA testing done, which is testing of children's language abilities and their understanding of English and where they would fall in an ELL tiered system, to have that done earlier in the year, to have kids placed appropriately, will be hugely beneficial, and to have one person to be spearheading that, I think, will also make this a more efficient process in order to put in place all that we need in order to support these kids and getting them caught up to where they need to be and providing them the education that they can get out of ELL, graduate out of there. So I too am supportive of this position, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Abrahamson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In my view, this is not a function of a school committee to approve or disapprove the position. As long as the appointment occurs within the budget, it's the superintendent's prerogative to make the appointment. Both the data and the written observations citing the need for attention to our English language learners, and by the way, that's what ELL stands for, English language learners. For example, go back many years. The coordinated program reviews for Southbridge Public Schools for 2002 and 2009, and testing results are just some examples. From the Southbridge District Leadership Evaluation Report of June 10th, 2005, this is 9 years ago, and they were talking about the situation in Southbridge before that, okay? Here's what they said. The school committee's approach to governance of the school system for the past several years, that's before 2005, that's before anyone up here was on this committee, reflects a poor or incomplete understanding of their role and important responsibilities. Operating in crisis mode to deal with one thing after another, as they describe it, they have not required proper planning, reporting about district programs, and accountability for district operations. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, they continue to accept explanations and assurances from the superintendent, business manager, special education director, and those with curriculum responsibilities that the system was making good progress in all areas. They require training in their responsibilities, that is the school committee, and assistance in and monitoring of their work. They demonstrate neither a clear understanding of their significant role of governance and oversight, nor any sense of urgency in addressing that shortcoming, to say the least. This need should be quickly addressed, again from 2005, so that they can plan and work productively with the new superintendent and team of administrators, several of whom are to be newly appointed. And this: the district must improve its knowledge of and response to its changing student demographics. As noted in the Tier 3 report, the disproportionate rate of suspension and dropout for the district's Hispanic American students did not prompt attention by the district and school administrators. Such students were overrepresented both in school and out of school suspensions, chronic absences, and retentions. There was no evidence that the district considered this to be a problem or was addressing it. Increased sensitivity coupled with a willingness to respond appropriately to fulfill the system mission for all students appears to be necessary. Students, families, faculty, and staff must become more knowledgeable about student support services available for students requiring them. So the need has been clearly demonstrated, Madam Chair, and while I will vote for this so that there will be no delay, I sincerely hope that our committee will monitor the results emanating from this new position and demand appropriate data from the superintendent showing how this and all other decisions serve to move our district forward. And I might add, I appreciate the current leadership because I know that we are heading in that direction towards understanding the school committee's role in district governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Anybody would like to speak again? Dr. Page?
Another, I guess, I don't want to belabor this too much, but just a point of clarification. If this is effectively, the way I'm reading the way it's written, is effectively an administrative position, because it doesn't report to any principal, it's reporting to the Director of Teaching and Learning. But you're using they're using the scale of pay and so forth. Basically, they're still in the union, right? They're a classroom teacher?
Yes.
Is that going to present problems in the sense of you have somebody that's in the union as a classroom teacher that is not teaching? Basically, they're not. I mean, how are they going to be evaluated? What's the evaluation mechanism and so forth? I mean, my understanding is that's a collective bargaining issue. And if you're in an administrative position where you have no teaching responsibilities directly, and you're in I don't understand how the evaluation mechanism is going to work. And I'm wondering, I'm not saying I don't support the position, I'm just not sure that the mechanism is being done properly.
The Commonwealth allows for teacher coaches, and so that's essentially what this is in some districts. Every district has a different name for it. Once upon a time in Springfield, they were called CPDTs, now they're ILSs. So there is a provision that members of the collective bargaining unit can be used as teacher coaches. As a past practice in Southbridge, there have been instructional resource specialists. This past year, we had an academic dean at the high school, and so there are provisions for this type of position.
Okay.
It's just in this case, just to leverage this position as much as we can and leverage funding, and to provide someone with ongoing training, we have narrowed it to one person who will serve district-wide, whereas every school, except the pre-KK, and they have someone who is doing the data, but both elementary schools, the middle school and the high school, have instructional resource specialists already.
And I guess my follow-up question to that is that that's not really under the purview of the school committee then. You could do this, but basically the mechanism by which you're filling this need is not really up to us. Am I correct?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Abrahams?
I mean,
That's
if
correct.
it were
Did you wanna
creating an
answer?
administrative position outside the budget, that would be up to us, right?
Correct. If we
But
were
the way
adding-
this is being handled, my understanding is that we probably don't really even need to vote on this.
Can you hold on, I'm going to let Ms. Gardner just respond. Do you have a response to that?
It is a new position, and it was my take on it, and perhaps I am incorrect in doing that, is that a new position has to be approved by the school committee, and it is a new teaching position. So, you know, I don't know the right or the wrong answer about that. I think for us, in the new administration that we have put together, we plan to be transparent, we plan to be open and honest, and we plan to give you a lot of data with what we are doing moving forward. I believe in the past, as Mr. Nimberco said many times, we had positions that failed children. I mean, from what I understand, and again, I'm going on what I've been told, that a few years ago, we hired a ELL director who did not have a license, and as she worked here, she became licensed. And we're looking for something to really leverage funding, but not just leverage funding, but to leverage the level of education that we're able to give our students. Whether or not this should be voted on by you, I don't have an answer to that. I'm gonna let the chair speak to that. But I believe our plan or our hope in presenting this to you is that to tell you this is what we're doing, this is what we want to see done, and we're not creating another position just to create a position. We don't have anybody in mind for this position, and it's not a position that we're filling from within. Ms. Nguyen, who had the position this year as the district department chair, did a phenomenal job with the resources and the time that she had. She wished to return to the classroom full-time. And so in sort of doing this, in a sense, last minute, when we realized that she wasn't interested in pursuing this position, we just wanted to be very above board with it about what it was. So if it did not need to come to you, then I apologize for that, but that was our rationale behind it.
Yeah, I guess the honest answer is I guess I don't know. It just looks to me like it justifiably probably should be an administrative position, just the way it's structured and what the responsibilities are. I guess my concern is the fact that it's being done as a mechanism as a teacher, and which is a union, person that's going to be in the union and so forth. Whether you're creating an administrative position or you're creating a teaching position.
This is not an evaluative position. The teacher coaches are not evaluators. It's not an evaluative position. They are in it to assist teachers and to better those teachers so that we can have a through line to students and raise our student achievement. So they will not be evaluating.
Okay.
It's a instructional position.
Mr. Abrahamson had his hand up.
Go ahead.
No, my question was...
Deferring to Mrs.
I'm
Donovan?
sorry.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, too many points. I just wasn't sure. I'm going to go back to what Dr. Page was just saying. I wasn't sure if your question was who will evaluate this person or will this person evaluate it?
Yeah, I'd like the answer to both, because the way it looks here, it looks like it reports to the director of teaching and learning, which I would assume that person would be doing the evaluating. Which
That's what I
again,
would
if it's a
assume as
union
well.
position, that to me is unique. Typically, building principals evaluate the teaching positions, and so so from that perspective, it's really an administrative position. And then if the other concern that I have is if this person doesn't have any ability to evaluate the ELL instructors, they don't have any teeth. So it's that's I guess I have some issues with the structure of it. Don't get me wrong, I believe that we probably have a very, very strong and compelling need for something like this. My concern is just I want to make sure that we do it with the appropriate mechanism so that it's as effective as it possibly can be.
Okay, Mr. Abrahamson.
I'm sure that the superintendent is capable of dealing with the union. I don't think that we need to get into that either. I think that that's part of her negotiation for what she's doing. I don't believe we need to get into that, but that's just my opinion. I understand that. But she's the CEO of this school system, school district. We're we are the what and she's the how. Okay? We evaluate how the how's doing. Okay? I realize that that's not the way things have been done forever, but it certainly is the way the future of what school committees do. It really is the present of what school committees do, except for some of us here.
Thank you. Anybody else? If I may, I would just like to say that we are voting to approve the position, not the job description. So those concerns that have been raised tonight the superintendent can take those under advisement and redraft or rework the job description. But we're just voting right now on the position. The job description The concerns I've heard tonight are valid, and I share a couple of those, but we're actually voting on the position itself and not the job description.
Just a point of information,
Mr. Abrahams?
when we vote, it means that the superintendent can go ahead and do this, right? If we say yes, it means she just goes ahead and can do it. Right. We don't have to wait for any more votes.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So that's it. I'm going to close discussion. I think everybody's had a chance to talk about this. So the question is on the vote to add a .5 literacy, .5 ELL IRS district-wide position. May I have a roll call, please? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mr. Abrahamson?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mr. Olivo?
Yes.
Dr. Page?
No.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
We have 6 yes, 1 no.
Thank you. The motion carries, the effect of which is that a .5 literacy, .5 ELL IRS district-wide position has been created. Thank you for that. Agenda item number 13 is unfinished business. It just came to my attention earlier when reviewing the agenda one final time before the meeting that the second reading of the wellness policy had been left off the agenda. So I would entertain a motion to add that agenda item at this time.
So moved.
Dr. Page makes a motion to add agenda item, the second reading of the wellness policy, also known as policy file ADF. Is there a second?
Second?
Mrs. Congdon seconds the motion. Is there any discussion to add this agenda item? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mr. Abrahamson?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mr. Olivo?
Yes.
Dr. Page?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you. With that being said, I'm going to read into the record the wellness policy, unless,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I'll move to waive the second reading.
Thank you. Mr. Abrahamson makes a motion to waive the second reading of the wellness policy. Is there a second?
Second?
Mrs. Quinney seconds that. Is there any discussion on the motion to waive? Seeing none, can I have a roll call on that, the motion to waive the second reading of the wellness policy?
Mr. Abrahamson?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mr. Olivo?
Yes.
Dr. Page?
Oh, yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you. Under new business, the next regular school committee meeting will be held Tuesday, August 12, 2014 at 7 p.m. in council chambers. Is there any other new business or any member who would like to speak at this time?
You're in the member form?
Member 4, yep. Mr. Abrahamson?
I have 2 items. First, I was happy to hear recently that our school district will be participating in the community eligibility provision of the National School Lunch Program. In short, what that means is that all students in our Southbridge schools are now eligible to receive free breakfast and free lunch at school, regardless of the family's economic circumstances. I'm sure the community will be given more details shortly, but we do know that all children perform better academically when they start the day with breakfast. Now, for those people who feel a bit strapped when it comes to the food budget, here's a practical reason to make sure your kid gets to school. We all know that at a certain point they become eating machines, and everyone has had this conversation. The eating machine stares forlornly at the refrigerator and says, "There's never anything to eat in this house." And then the exasperated adult said, "I just went to the store. You're eating us out of house and home." Well, now we can help with that. Southbridge Public Schools will not only satisfy the thirst for knowledge, but help quell the voracious appetites too. But you got to make sure they get to school. Second, Madam Chairperson, I've been quite amazed at the effort it takes to get some of our group to get to subcommittees or even to respond to emails to check their availability to attend. Now, I'm sure that some people have more patience than I do. Maybe it's my old age. But I do think, in the spirit of transparency, there ought to be a clear accounting of those who attend
and those who don't. Of course, issues arise that can't be helped, and everyone will miss some meetings along the way. People have busy lives, I understand that. But one major consideration when running for public office is making a commitment of your time. I believe that people who have not informed the chairperson that he or she will be absent should be recorded as absent unauthorized. If they have informed the chair of an absence, they could be recorded as absence authorized. At the end of the school year, the final report for each committee should state the number of meetings held, the names of the subcommittee members, and the number of absences, both authorized and unauthorized. The voting public certainly has the right to that transparency. Madam Chair, most of the hard work, as you know, occurs at the subcommittees, not on televised school committee meetings like this. If the school district is going to sail out of our underperforming level 4 status, everyone has to grab an oar. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Mr. Lebo?
I would just like to remind everybody again, August 2nd is the Playground Build Day. Please come out, support our community. We need the support of our community out there. And I would also like to invite, again, the public to these meetings. We do have a time. You don't have to stay for the whole meeting, but we do have a time slotted so that you could express your concerns. And we'd love to hear them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else this side? Okay, anybody this side? Mrs. Congdon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to touch on what Mr. Levo said, inviting the community on August 2nd. You must be 18 years old to participate in the active build, but kids are more than welcome to come with their parents and watch. Rain is slated, but we will still do it in the rain unless it's thunder and lightning, but we'll have to make that decision tomorrow as part of the playground committee. So everyone's welcome. There'll be hot dogs, steamed hot dogs available, and donuts for all of those who participate, as well as some snacks. We'll keep everyone well fed with drinks, but just welcome the community to come out and build that playground. It's been a long time coming. I also wanted to say that I had the opportunity to go to the library and attend Monday night's presentation. It was great, a great turnout at the library, and I wanted to also thank the Jacob Edwards Library for their collaboration on the summer reading program. They have a lot of supplies for our students that coincide with our summer reading list. And I also had the opportunity to stop by there for lunch last week, and while I was there, there were about 20 to 30 kids that were receiving lunch within that hour, if not more. It was very well run. There were 3 people handing out lunch, and they even had a recycling container, but I liked that, how that was run. I also wanted to say to the public to please take advantage of lunch at West Street School, the library, the middle school, high school, the community center, the House of Destiny, Eastford Road School, and Brookside Terrace. All of the times of those lunch programs are on our website. So if you wanted to go, you can look that up to go have lunch free for anybody 18 years of age or younger. And I also wanted to just tell parents and families that the Southbridge State Pool is open. Children 3 years old and under are free, and otherwise it's $4 a person a day. And I've had a lot of good comments about members of the community that have gone to the state pool with their families and said how well run it's been and how clean it is. So go out and enjoy the pool. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Congdon. We're good? Okay. If nobody else has anything to add, we will be taking a vote to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for union and non-union personnel or litigation to the extent that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the governmental body pursuant to Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Part 3. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Quinney makes the motion. Mr. Abrahamson seconds the motion. I need a roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mr. Olivo?
Yes.
Dr. Page?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mr. Abrahamson?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you. The meeting will reconvene in open session for the purpose of adjournment only. Thank you and have a good evening.